Anyways, let's get into the movie review uh, for this month, and the theme is who wore it better. So this month, these next couple of weeks, we're going to do movies. We're going to do original movies and then their remakes, and then we're going to do kind of like a compare and contrast, and then we're going to rate both films. But to start off this month, we're going to review Scarface, both of them.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is like when you think Scarface, we all know the one from '83 with Al Pacino, right? We all know that one. Everyone I talked to, like when I was, because I've been talking about doing this review for a while, and because I talk to people about movies all the time, or people always come up to me and it's like, hey, what's a good movie to watch, and or what are you watching, all this stuff. So. And I was telling them about what we're doing for December, kind of this idea of who wore it better. And I was telling people like, there's certain movies that we all know and love that are actually remakes. And with Scarface, they're like, Scarface is a remake? And I was like, yes, it was. There's actually the one from 1932 that nobody talks about, ever. I've never heard anyone talk about the 32 Scarface.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not talked about whatsoever, and so I think this is gonna be fun.
Yes, you literally took the words right out of my mouth because I was pretty much going to say the same thing.
Well, Andy, great minds think alike.
Exactly. All right. Just a quick synopsis. I'll do just quick synopsis. I'll just do the synopsis for both.
Okay.
Movies, or both versions, I should say. There it is. Yes, okay, so this is for Scarface 1932. Key lieutenant of Southside Chicago crime boss Johnny Lavo. Oh, speaking of Chicago. Yes. Speaking of Chicago, key lieutenant of Southside Chicago crime boss Johnny Lavo, Tony Camante, is an ambitious and reckless gangster who ignores warnings not to mess with Irish gangs on the north side. When the north side retaliates, Tony essentially massacres them, leaving them on top of the world. Worried about Tony's overconfidence, however, Johnny orders him killed. But this also backfires, and Tony finds himself even closer to becoming king of the city. That's for Scarface 1932, and then, of course, Scarface 1983. After getting a green card in exchange for assassinating a Cuban government official, Tony Montana stakes a claim on the drug trade in Miami, viciously murdering anyone who stands in his way. Tony eventually becomes the biggest drug lord in the state, controlling nearly all of the cocaine that comes through Miami. But increased pressure from the police, wars with the Colombian drug cartels, and his own drug-fueled paranoia serve to fuel the flames of his eventual downfall.
Yeah.
So where do you want to begin?
Well, let's start with the movies are similar. Well, let's start with the similarities, and we'll hit on. And we'll so a couple of similarities. Obviously, both our main characters are named Tony. Mm-hmm. They have a sister that they're very protective of.
Mm-hmm. Both immigrant backgrounds.
Both from immigrant backgrounds. They both lust after power. Mm-hmm. And technically, yes, they do kind of get high off of their own supply. Tony Montana.
Right, even though they were warned by their mentors not to
do. Right, and you have, although it was it's Prohibition era for the 32 version. Right. But like he when he finds the Thompson machine guns, like that's where like his real lust for power begins with, and it's kind of like he's kind of getting high off of his own supply, right. In essence.
He felt the way that God must feel when he holds a gun.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's your second Simpsons reference for the show.
Oh, that's it. I'm gonna have to watch that episode after we get off the air. Oh man, that's a great episode.
Yeah, it is.
Let's see. There's the right hand man of the Tonys are killed by the Tonys for getting together with the sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think of what they both die.
And they both lust after the boss's like beautiful blonde girlfriend.
That's right. In the original one, it's Poppy. I forget.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drawing a blank on the name from '83 that Tony Montana got with, which was a very young,
very hot Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh God, she was smoking in that film. Woo!
Seriously, woo! The character's name in the 1983 was Elvira.
That's right. Yeah. Great name.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those are really the similarities. But I think then that's kind of, and I'm not sure if this was mentioned in the '83 version, but the introduction in the 32, the original, they talked about how it was kind of based on a bunch of true events that happened that they all kind of like pushed together.
Right. Yeah, because that scene where Tony lines up all those gangsters, and it was on Valentine's Day. That's obviously a reference to the St. Valentine's Day massacre.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the thing is, like, Tony Kamani, like he's Al Capone. That's who that's the character that he's kind of portraying. Because Scarface was the nickname of Al Capone, and he was a Chicago, thug that became kind of the kingpin of Chicago.
Right. Yeah. Italian American.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, and so it was kind of like sharing all these, Prohibition era mobster stories that they kind of all rolled into one film, which was kind of, but I don't, and see, the thing is, I don't know if that was necessarily the same case with the one from '83. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's some, resemblance to some true stories, but I don't think that they actually directly.
Right. I think the only parallel would be the war on drugs, essentially, which they do bring up, because they're after that one guy who's kind of like a whistleblower. He's like saying like, oh well, like America, even though America spends all this money trying to fight, the drug trade, America's the one that's buying up all the drugs.
Oh, right. So it's kind of like also referring to like what the Iran-Contra affair kind of, you think?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So yeah, I guess there are but not, I don't think it was quite as much as the 32 version, but there were some definitely references to some historical events in the '83 version.
Yeah, well, they did reference the kind of the Cuban refugees that would come on boats. Although, like the Fidel allowing for the people to leave and then sneak, let it releasing all of the prisoners from the jails. That was a fabrication.
That was a fabrication.
Yeah, or at least the part of where Fidel, released 100,000 prisoners along with the refugees.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a fabrication.
But yeah, it's that's kind of like where the similarities in the movies kind of end. I actually think that there was a lot more differences than similarities in the films. Is there anything you think I missed on similarities, Andy?
Whoa. What else? Well, I mean, they both both Tonys confront their former boss and mentor, because the mentor portrays them.
Oh, and the way that he gets where he like confirms that it was the boss that betrayed them. It was done the same way. It was kind of like, I know this guy did it, and so he had someone call at a very specific time,
Right.
claiming that they did the job or they bungled the job,
Right.
and
then
if he dismissed it, then they knew that it was.
Right, because I think in both versions, like they both dismissed it. It's like, oh, it was my girlfriend, or it's like it was Poppy, or it was Elvira. Even though Tony's knew that it was the guy, because they called exactly at the time that he specified, so he knew that it was his guy. And so when he said like, oh, it was my girlfriend, it's like lying sack of shit.
Yeah. So. That was that, but outside of that, like, that's kind of where the similarities in the film kind of stop.
Yeah.
Let's see now. As far as the differences go, I mean, like the way that both Tonys die at the end is
right.
Because one, it's death by cop in the original, whereas in the '83 version, you have him die by a rival, by one of the drug lords that he kind of screwed over.
Yeah. Was it just me, or did that guy look like the Colombian Terminator?
Dude, yes, he did.
Even though this movie came out a year before Terminator, it was just like
maybe he was the inspiration of, yeah. But that's I was it's funny that you said that, because that's exactly what I was thinking. It's like, dude, this guy is gonna fuck everybody up.
Right. Yeah, I guess some of the other differences would be like the relationship between Tony and his mom in the the '83 version is different from the '32 version. Where where in the '32 version, Tony lived with his mom and his sister, and he took care of them or whatever. Whereas in the '83 version, Tony came over to the United States by himself. He declared that his parents were dead. He had no family here in the States. But then it wasn't until much later, once he's established himself within the drug trade, that he goes and visits his mom and his sister and says, "Oh, mom, your boys made it," and he offers, to pay, to give them money and to take care of them. But also the dynamic is different, because in the '32 version, the mom mostly just allows Tony to take care of them, as opposed in the '83 one, where the mom knows where he's getting his money from and doesn't want anything to do with it, and mostly severs ties with him.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is, in the '32 version, it's almost kind of like a loving relationship between those two, anyways, because when his sister, when she realized that his sister's kind of like, ended up going off somewhere, she told him about it. And it's like, hey, she went off to this address, I think she's with some guy, but I don't know who it is. And it's like, whereas, if that was the '83 version, that would have never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, which is the relationship between the Tonys and the sister, when after both times he shot like her, surprise husband, that they were trying to, which was the right-hand man in both cases. In the '32 version, which is very weird, that she ended up forgiving him at the end and was fighting alongside him. Whereas in this version, she came back, because in the '83 version, she shot Tony Montana. So it's like, which I think
then it was got like this. She was like in this weird hysteria state, where she was accusing Tony of wanting wanting her
To fuck her.
sexually.
Yeah, I was like, that actually kind of like, I felt like that reaction was more genuine than the one from the 32 version.
Right. It's like, oh, like, yeah, you killed my husband. I forgive you. As opposed to this one where she's like kind of still like grief stricken, and so like, and then she's like, and like, because she kind of like lost in her thoughts, in her grief, and like kind of like seeing things like, he gets insanely jealous when when any man tries to lay a hand on her, and so it's just like, like what else is she supposed to think that means?
Right. The other difference too, and which from the '83 version, there's a lot more backstory, and kind of really you kind of dive deeply into who Tony Montana is, his background, and like how how he moves up. Whereas in the original, it's kind of like they fast forward time quite a bit,
Yeah.
where it's like pretty. I mean, they do the same thing in the '83 version, but it's not. It's you still get a lot of story, a lot more story.
Right.
I'm trying to think of what else is kind of different about. What are some other differences that you noticed that you felt were significant differences?
Well, in the '83 version, the right hand man of the mentor turns out to be a rat, or he's known to because they during that deal in Colombia, one of the servants for the drug lord in Colombia recognizes the right hand man of the boss or the mentor, and he gets killed. I don't know if is there a similar thing that happens in the 32 version like that.
No, not like that. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, they hung him out of a helicopter.
Right. Oh yeah, and like the right hand man of the mentor, was played in the '83 version was played by F. Murray Abraham.
Yep.
Again, for those of you not aware, he's a very well respected actor.
The other the another kind of, I don't know if you watch Breaking Bad at all.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever watch Breaking Bad?
I never got past this first season. Not because it wasn't a good show. It just I don't know. Something happened. I couldn't finish it.
Anyways, okay. So then you probably still saw this character. So the kind of the assassin that was part of the Colombian the drug kingpin, like his assassin. That guy. He was the guy that's in Breaking Bad. He's the crime boss that's in the wheelchair with the bell.
With the bell, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him.
That's right.
Because I was like, I was looking. I was like, I know this guy. Where the fuck do I know him? And thankfully, because I was watching it through Amazon Prime, and they have like little trivia and like who all the actors' names are and stuff. So I looked at it. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. He was the guy from Breaking Bad.
Nice.
One other thing. Think about that too. The other difference from this film too is because they're later on in the film they're and this is where like kind of the beginning of the end for Tony Montana begins, is kind of dealing with like the whistleblower and all this stuff, and they're trying to kill the guy that's going to the UN, and Tony is helping the guy from the Colombian drug cartel set the car bomb. And they're trying to set it off, but it's like his wife and kids are along with him, and it's like no, I'm not gonna, like, you said that his wife and kids weren't gonna be there. I'm not doing this. And so he ends up shooting the guy nothing like that takes place in the original.
Right. That's right.
And actually, so it's kind of weird in a way where, unlike in the 32 version, you do get some semblance of humanity from the 83 version.
Right. Well, yeah. In the 32 version, they just made Tony out to be like this kind of like, crazed killer, or like this kind of like this unsympathetic killing machine.
Right, and it's like they're both bad guys. We both know that we both want them to get their comeuppance,
Mm-hmm.
but you also get a little bit of like where Tony Montana, unlike Tony Kamani, has some humanity in him, and he has a line that he won't cross.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
And
Tony Montana, he won't kill like civilians, quote unquote.
Right.
Innocents that have nothing to do with his business.
So that's a huge difference in the story too.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only ones I can really think of that are like the huge, like significant differences in the from the two.
Right, because it's, I mean, not to ding Brian De Palma, because I think his direction was great, but it was more or less these two movies are more or less the same.
They are and they aren't in a lot of ways.
Right. I I think very basically, like skeletally, they're the same. It's just like they just have different muscles.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually a good way of putting it. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the other big difference, one's Chicago, one's Miami, but
right. Yeah, geography or location.
Yeah.
But I dare say that the 83 one was a little bit more international and global, because the trips to Colombia and into New York, and so as opposed to the 32 version, where it was just mostly centered around Chicago.
Yeah, I mean they traveled as far as the north side.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you? Okay, I'll ask this. Why do you think it is that the 83 version is the version that everyone thinks of as opposed to the original? Do you think is it the age of the film? Is it just is it the acting? Is it the characters? What do you think it is that really makes the 83 version what everyone thinks of in their mind when they think of Scarface?
Well, I think acting for sure, or the caliber of actor. Because again, I look at the cast of the 32 Scarface, and just like, I don't know who these people are. And again, it's we're just me and you are, of course, decades removed from the height of these actors, like careers and things like that. So we don't know, like the actor who played Tony in the 32 version might have been equal popularity or caliber as Al Pacino. I'm just not sure.
And well, here's the other thing too, like with the 32, because 32 is actually like it's still pretty early on in the quote unquote talkies. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, because that was like maybe like 4 or 5 years into talkies. So, like I said, these could be the heavy hitters, and even then, with the one like really kind of big name in the film that is, I would think, is still recognizable today, is Boris Karloff. Mm-hmm. Though he didn't really play a huge prominent role in the film because it was still pretty early on in his career as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like it's And it wasn't that the acting in the one from 32 is bad. It's just the names aren't recognizable today at all.
Mhm.
Outside of maybe one person. The other thing. This is a Howard Hughes production, produced film. The one from 32.
Right.
So that's the other big name. But yeah. I don't really know why. It's not a bad film, but yeah, the 83 one is definitely. I think it's a mixture of acting, the stars that are in the film, and I don't know. Maybe people like more of the kind of bombastic, crazy Tony Montana, because Al Pacino plays him pretty well.
Right. But I think, well, also I think it has to do with quotability. The 83
Yeah.
version is I mean, again, it goes back to, that phrase we coined, cinematic archaeology. It's like everyone knows,
Oh,
like, it's like, say hello to my little friend, or,
yeah.
first you get the money, then you get, then you get the women.
Yeah.
He's like you're stupid, you're a stupid little cockroach. You know,
Yeah, right.
all memorable, all quotable lines, and I think that went of I think did Ryan De Palma like write it too, or like rewrite, or did he just direct?
I have to look into that. I don't remember if he was. I didn't look into it that far.
Oh no, wait, this was a screenplay. The screenplay was by Oliver Stone.
Oh, that actually explains a lot. Okay.
Mm. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for the '83 Scarface is just quotability.
Yeah, those lines have lasted the test of time and have been parodied so much.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, even I'm not sure if you're familiar with the group The Lonely Island. It's
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well, there's one song that they did along with Michael Bolton, and they were kind of parodying all these films. One of them being Scarface, which was fucking hilarious, by the way. And but yeah, it's stuff like that, from music to games to shows, all this stuff. I mean, like, it's kind of one of those movies that even if you haven't seen the 83 Scarface, you've seen it. It's
Oh, yeah, and also, I didn't realize. I mean, I guess now watching it more as a mature adult, how bad Al Pacino's Cuban accent is.
oh, it's so bad.
It's
Yeah.
so bad. I mean, but at the time, I thought, I just really enjoyed the character. So, I just like I didn't really think about it. But then also, like, I never met any other Cubans, so it wasn't really a thing. But then after, like, experiencing the world a bit more, and, like, actually hearing how Cubans talk, it's like, man, it's so bad. But that awful Cuban accent is also what's memorable about this too, because you can't quote Tony Montana, in just your regular voice. You gotta do the Cuban accent, or the
Yeah,
god
you gotta
awful
do
Cuban
a
accent.
fucked up Cuban accent that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it too, because after, because I'm a baseball fan, and
Mhm.
there's quite a few Cubans in baseball, and yeah,
Right.
their accent is, it's like, that's not Tony Montana's accent at all.
Right.
uh,
I mean, some things, I think he did get it right. Like when he go like, "Hey, what's up, man?"
yeah,
That, yeah, man. I don't know what you're
that
talking
actually,
about, man.
yeah. Um, I will say this too: if you're doing a drinking game for Scarface,
Mhm.
and with how much the word "fuck" is used in this film, like, you would
Yeah.
die. If that was your drinking word, you'd be fucked by like
Yeah.
20 minutes into the film.
Right.
Yes.
I was wondering how much of Michelle Pfeiffer's performance in the bathroom scene, when he's in like the jacuzzi, and she says like,
Yeah.
"Could you stop saying the word fuck every single time?"
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that was like actually like her like, stop saying fuck so many times.
Hey, at least the movie's self-aware. Yeah.
Very.
I was gonna, because I'm no like obviously I use the word fuck quite a bit too, but man, even I was saying it's like that's too much. Like this is insane. Like how
I know,
much
like the word is beginning to lose all meaning.
yeah, it's like I don't think I've ever seen a movie or show or anything that has used that word so much. I think it's.
Agreed.
I wonder. I know there's someone out there that's done it. Some like crazy nerd that has counted up how many times that word is used throughout the film.
Mm-hmm.
I want to look it up and I want to see if it is indeed the film that used it the most.
Right. It's kind of like trying to get an accurate body count in Braveheart.
Right. Oh man.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
No, I can't really think of anything. I would, other than that, like if I was gonna say which one I like better, I'm obviously one. I usually do not like remakes of films. We kind of did this once back when we did our whatchamacallit, our
Hitchcock.
our Hitchcock month with when he remade his movie The Man Who Knew Too Much.
Mm-hmm.
That to me was a remake that was done right, because I think it not only like it kept the story from the original, but I think it improved upon it with some better acting, and kind of gave a little bit more depth to the story. So that was, and I felt like that was a remake that was done right. This is also another one that I felt was done right, where like I said, it had the skeleton that was there. It just kind of added some more depth to the characters, and I don't know. It did feel like a better movie. It was because a lot of times, like the remakes, especially the remakes that are coming out today, they're really not good. They're unoriginal. They're not really doing anything new other than trying to shove some social justice down your throat. It's like, what if such and such character was a woman? Oh, you bigots didn't like that, did you? You sexists didn't like that very much, did you? It's like, no, you know why I didn't like it? Because it fucking sucks. That's why. The acting's terrible.
Right, yeah. I mean, because I think another example of like good gender swapping or race swapping would be the reimagined Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
Because they took Starbuck, who was originally a male character, and then turned it into a female character. But it worked. Damn,
it worked.
I mean, because she wasn't a strong female character outright. She was flawed, and you slowly got to the character slowly got to endear herself to the audience, and so then you begin to respect her. And also the character Boomer, who was again in the original Battlestar Galactica, was a black man, but for the reimagined version was made into a Korean woman.
Yeah, that's right. That's also
right.
God, yes.
And it worked out too because and then they expanded the character because they made her into a human form Cylon, and then they did they did this duality where they had two versions of this particular Cylon, and one stayed amongst the people, and then she slowly started feeling alienated, and she eventually learned of her true nature. And then you had the other one who was trapped on a planet who had their own plan, but eventually gained her humanity.
Right.
In the end, and
so it can be done.
Yeah, so it can be done. That was the point of that was where I was trying to get to. But yeah, so it can be done is what we're trying to say.
But like the thing is, a lot of the remakes that are coming out today suck ass and are
Agreed.
just not worth watching.
Agreed.
But this is one of those films where it's like it makes sense as to why the remake is kind of like better and more recognizable as opposed to the original, because it did improve upon the story and added depth to the characters.
Agreed.
And kind of reimagine them in a way that was different enough where it's like, yes, we're watching the same movie, but we're also watching a different film at the same time. And yeah, I see why the '83 version is much more ubiquitous as opposed to the original.
Agreed. Yeah, I like the '83 version better as well.
All right. Any other last thoughts for you, Andy, or do you want to give our ratings?
That's it. Yeah, let's give our ratings and then wrap this thing up.
Alrighty. I'm gonna have to go for the original. I'm gonna give it like 2.5 stars on this one. It's not a bad film, but like it's missing something. Like it needed a little bit more punch, and like the acting was a little wooden at times. Like not like Tony, the guy who played Tony Kamani, like he was a good actor. Like he played the part well. But some of the other characters were a little bit like not the best.
Right.
83. The '83 version, I'm gonna give a I'm gonna give it a 3.5. Okay. And that's not a bad rating. It's just it does have a good story. It has you get more depth in the characters, so it's you feel you're there with Tony Montana, and you see like how he made his rise from kind of nothing to like Kingpin, and so I mean there's that. I've never thought I would say this, but the word "fuck" was used way too much in this film, like way too much. If they had like taken out like 250 of them, maybe that would have been a little bit better. But like, man, it was way too much, even for me. But overall, like I said, the story is good. The soundtrack is good. A little gruesome. So if you don't like that, like it is a kind of a gruesome film. But yeah, like it's a good film, and I see why like everyone likes this one. Definitely not like not my favorite mob film. I think there's a lot better ones out there. There's a comedian by the name of John Mulaney. He had a really great bit talking about like films, and it's like how with some people he's like, oh, my favorite movies are The Godfather and Scarface, and it's like, and to him it's like that's like saying it's like my favorite foods are lobster and Skittles.
Oh.
So I kind of agree with that. Like I think there's a lot better mob films than Scarface, but it's not a bad film. I think it's definitely something you should watch if you haven't watched it. So those are my ratings.
All right, for me, for the 32 version, I'm gonna give it 2.
Okay.
Yeah, because also of the overt like political messaging that they put into this movie. With the thing, because this is this in the beginning they had that thing where it's like saying like, oh, these events are true, and we make this movie to like to send a message to like the like Congress or whatever to do their job and to make sure like to keep us safe and da da da. Like the obvious like second like this the anti-Second Amendment like debate that they actually had like right in the middle of the movie.
That's right. I forgot to we That was something I did forget. Yes, that's right. I was like, what? This is 32. My God.
Yeah, this is 32. So we think that this, it was all like done in like the early 1900s, but it's like this is like 32.
That's that's.
Yeah, well, they're asking for like more like government overreach. It's like, oh well, if there isn't a law, then we have to make the law to take the gun. And it's like, what?
Yeah, I forgot. I totally forgot about that point. But you're right, Andy. That was. Maybe I will give it. You know what? I'm gonna downgrade it. You're right. 2. I'm gonna go with 2. I'm going with. I'm going with you. I forgot about that part. Fuck that. Fuck the original Scarface. Then.
Hey man, fuck you.
Say hello to my little
friend. But for the 83, I'm gonna give it a little bit better score, and give it a 3.75.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think it was good. It wasn't quite a 4, but I just can't see myself justifying giving it a 4. But I can give it a 3.75.